Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you want to see how I completed this look using 3 bundles, just keep on watching. This was the finished product. So first thing you're going to need is a Spandex Dome Cap, some T-pins. You're going to need a silver Sharpie marker. It's very important you get silver. You're also going to need your sewing machine. Okay, so these are the bundles that I'm going to be using for this wig that I'm going to be creating. And I did get 3 bundles and a frontal. And this is the local hair dealer that I got it from. Shout out to Stallion Beauty. Okay, so right now I'm just showing you guys the hair. This is the frontal. And it looks really good against my skin. It's transparent and it is very full and silky. Okay, this is one of the bundles, the 22 inch. This is the 20 inch. Okay, so I've already placed my dome cap on my mannequin head. And when you're placing your dome cap on the head, you want to bring it slightly forward, about 2 inches from the spandex cap, as if it was your hairline. Once you do that, you want to pin it on both ends with some T-pins. And during this process, you do want to take your time and make sure you are lining it up, because this determines the layout of your wig. This is the starting point. Okay, so this is how it's looking. Okay, from the side. Okay, so now that I have the frontal on the cap, I am going to go ahead and braid down the 2 sides just to keep the frontal out of the way. Here I am braiding down my frontal to keep the hair out of the way. And when you are braiding it, you don't want it to be super tight, because you still want it to be able to lay properly. So as you see, I pulled the front to make sure that I do have the frontal on in the right position, even with the braids in. Okay, so this is how she is looking. Okay, this is it. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is use my silver Sharpie, and I am going to outline this frontal on the wig cap. Okay, so this is my line that I drew with my Sharpie. Okay, so now what I'm going to go ahead and do is use the same Sharpie and outline my wig head from ear to ear. And I'm going to do this all the way up until I get to the top of my dome cap. And you want to make sure you are putting enough space in between the lines. You don't want them to be too close together because we are going to be doubling the wefts on the wig. So you don't want them to be super close together. When you get to the top, you do want to do them slightly close together, just to make sure that it's filled in properly. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is take off the frontal. And this is what it looks like. Okay, and I'm going to take off the wig head as well. Cap, excuse me. And this is what it looks like. And I did do a second line for the frontal for seam allowance, which is basically the space that you need for like hemming or something like that. This is my sewing machine. I have a Brother LX3125, and I really didn't get any good footage of me loading my sewing machine, so I do apologize, but this is a bobbin. Every sewing machine comes with a bobbin, and this is where you load the bottom thread. I'm just showing you guys how it looks. Okay, so right here I am threading my machine so that I can get started. And when you are loading it, once you put the needle through, to get the bobbin string up from underneath the sewing machine, you want to turn your manual towards you. While you are turning it, you're gonna hold your string, and you will see the bobbin string come up while you are pulling the string, if that makes sense. So while you're pulling the string up, the bobbin string will pull up, and then you just pull it out and slide it out the way. Okay, so right here I am going to show you how to double your wefts. Okay, these are my two wefts, and I'm just showing you that they're not together, and I'm about to sew them together now. Okay, so when you are sewing your wefts, you want to take two end pieces of both ends of your weft, and you want to hold them together. While you are holding them together, you want to go ahead and lower your foot down right onto where you want to start sewing at. Once you lower your foot, you want to continue to hold those two pieces and your strings together while you are starting to sew. So you see I'm holding my two ends, and I collected my strings, and I'm going ahead and I'm laying my foot down, and I'm going to begin to sew. Okay, and sewing is kind of like driving, so the harder you press, the faster it goes. The less pressure that you put on the sewing machine, the slower it goes. So while I'm starting, I do like to go slow. And I didn't say this, but I did use a zigzag stitch. I am using a zigzag stitch on here. Now what I just did was I started to sew, and then I back stitched. Back stitching is what seals the thread together so that it doesn't come apart. Okay, it's kind of like a knot. So I did sew a little bit, and then I back stitch. Now I'm just going to continue sewing the wefts together. These wefts are not exactly on top of each other. As you can see, they are staggered so that they will lay flat. When they're exactly on top of each other, I feel like it looks a little bulky. So I like to stagger the tracks just to make sure that while I'm sewing the wig, it is going to lay flat, because we are going to be definitely putting a lot of hair on this cap, this spandex cap. So I am just completing this sewing all the way down. Okay, so here's a better view on how the wefts look and how they are staggered. And I am just putting my finger and kind of gently just holding it while it goes through, and letting the sewing machine do most of the work. The only thing I'm doing is making sure my line is straight. Okay, so we have completed this weft. Now, just for video purposes, I'm not going to show every track that I sew, every double weft for the 3 bundles. I'm just going to show this one bundle, and then we're going to start sewing the wig. Okay, once you are finished sewing the wefts, you're going to cut your strings. It's very important to cut your strings after every time you pull from your sewing machine. If you don't, you're going to have a whole bunch of strings to cut out of your wig when you are completed with your project. So you want to do it while you're sewing so that it's not such a tedious product. And you might miss a string and you never know. So this is my cap, and what I'm going ahead to do is I'm going to use it kind of like, okay, when you're sewing a sleeve, you put the cap or the sleeve on the arm, which is this part of the sewing machine is the arm. I'm doing the same method. I'm just putting my cap right under where I want to start at. I'm then gonna put the track in the same position, and then I'm going to start to sew. Now I'm gonna do the same exact thing, which is hold the strings and hold the 2 end pieces, just so that everything stays together neatly. Now, I really didn't talk about the foundation of your cap in the beginning of the video, so I do want to just state the foundation is the most important part of this wig. This is not like sewing by hand. This is totally different. So when you are sewing on a sewing machine with this cap, once you take it off of your wig head, the shape of the cap is going to change. The lines are going to look totally different. So you want to make sure that you really take your time and do your lines to the T. You don't want them to be crooked. You don't want them to be different spaces apart. You want to make sure that you take your time and do it correctly. And I am sewing on the spandex. Sewing on the spandex doesn't bother my wig, so I am going ahead and sewing on the spandex if someone's wondering. And just so you know, like when you are sewing, sometimes the hair can get in the middle of the pressure foot. So you're just gonna gently move that hair out of the way. You're gonna lift your foot and move the hair out of the way, and then put the foot back down. Okay, I'm back stitching to seal the deal, and then I'm gonna go forward again, right in the same spot. You better. Okay, and as I stated, you wanna make sure you cut your strings every time you finish a piece of your wig. Okay? And this is how the first track looks. As you can see, it looks straight, but it's really kind of curved a little bit because the shape changes. So now that we got our first track on here, as we continue to add hair, you want to be careful to keep the hair out of the way. The hair can get caught in the needle, in the bobbin underneath, all of that. So just be careful and keep the hair moved out of the way. What I like to do, once I start adding enough hair, I'll put my hand underneath the cap so I can make sure that I'm not placing any hair while I'm sewing. And please excuse my ashy hands. And I am just sewing my second track. And as you can see, if some of the hair gets caught in the pressure foot, I just lift up the foot and move the hair out the way. So I didn't get any footage of me sewing the frontal on the wig by hand, but this is the wig almost pretty much completed. What I'm about to do now is sew the frontal down with the sewing machine. So I'm going to do the same method. I'm going to put my cap right underneath the pressure foot. I'm going to put it down, and then I'm going to make sure I sew the frontal to the cap. Does get in the way while you're sewing the frontal, so you really want to take your time. And I'm still using a zigzag stitch. I'm just literally monitoring where each stitch is going so that my wig can lay properly. Because it is a lot of material as far as the wig cap, the bundles, and all of that stuff. So just be mindful that it is a lot of stuff. Frontal or on none of the wefts that you just created, and you kind of want to just seamlessly put everything together, the front and the back, so that it looks as if it's one piece. Okay, once again, cut your strings. And we are finished with this wig. This is how the wig looks before I put any color